government says it will commission an investigation into the abysmal performance of students in this year's WASSCE. Out of the over 400,000 students who sat for the exams, 61,778 failed, as per a statement by the council. English language and core maths recorded a decline in the performance of candidates as compared to the 2020 performance. As many as 204,831 out of the 446,352 candidates who sat for the examination this year scored above C6. And on your screens, you can see 45.89% of them scored between D7 and F9 in mathematics, whilst 45.92% scored the same marks for English language. Commenting on the development, Education Minister Dr. Yao Edochum was optimistic the outcome of the probe will shape and improve upon results of students in the near future.
Actually, the average is 60%, 60%. Certain subject areas went up, others were dipped. But when you put it on average, it's still 60%. So if you look at English, for example, there was a dip. Mathematics, there was a dip. But integrated science saw a huge jump, and social studies also saw an increase. Overall, the average is still 60%. But on the other hand, I just want to assure you that mathematics should not see a dip in my time, as somebody who has taught mathematics. So we're going to look at what went wrong and what we can do, which schools did so well, where there were drops, and then we are going to look at how best to ensure that we move up. But the good news is that 2 years in a row, we have in the core subjects seen 50% plus pass rate, which means that more students will then qualify to go to the universities. Because in the past years, what happened was you may have 70% or 80% pass on social studies, and then mathematics is 33%. And because mathematics is 33%, you can't have more than 33% of the students going to the university. So if English is 30%, even if all the other subjects are 70%, you can't have more than 30% going to the university. The moment you move English and mathematics up, then you are guaranteed a higher rate of entry into universities. So this is good news for the country, and I will encourage all of us, the same way that we support the Black Stars when they play and win. When our students play and win, let us come together as a people and celebrate them. So it shouldn't be about why didn't they do this. These young men and women are bold, brave, are in the midst of pandemic, have sat through exams, and they've done well. And I want all of us as Ghanaians to celebrate our young ones.
Has the D7 argument been settled? You advocate
it has not been settled, but it will soon be settled. The GTech is coming up with a memo to guide the space. I believe that we have a student who did general arts and have a D7 in mathematics. I don't understand why they can move up. But it doesn't mean that you are not going to help them correct the deficiency. What it means is that they can go to the university and do sociology. But in mathematics, they may have to do mathematics 100 and 101 to make up for any deficiency they have in mathematics. Same thing applies to those in science with a lower score, a D7 in English. The fact that they can enter to do engineering doesn't mean that their English should not be improved upon. So our general understanding is that we provide intervention for them, but allow them the opportunity to enter.
Let's understand the situation better. Dr. Clementa Park is Deputy Ranking Member for Education Committee of Parliament. He joins us via Zoom. And on the other hand is Kofi Asare, who is Executive Director of the Africa Education Watch. Let me start with you, Dr. Clementa Park. What does this result from WAEC or from the WASSCE examination, what does it mean to the fight over the period to ensure that there's improvement in the performance of SHS students?
Well, let me say good evening to you and good evening to viewers. Clearly, we must commend the students and their teachers for doing their best under rather challenging conditions and circumstances. I say so because the challenges bedeviling secondary education in Ghana are well known, and in particular, those that have come with the implementation of the free senior school policy. Within that context, we must commend the students and the teachers. However, if you look at the results, as the minister himself admits, clearly, maths and English and the performance would suggest that almost about 50% of the students who sat for WASSCE this year would not be able to progress, if we are to be honest, to the next level. But you see, the national averages and the current report as we see it does not tell the full story. Whilst we are worried that the performance on average, maths and English could have been better, if one were to disaggregate it, school by school, region by region, rural versus urban, the story is a lot more dire than we are seeing. If you take last year's WASSCE, for example, 22 senior high schools in the Republic of Ghana scored 0, meaning that in those 22 schools, largely in the northern parts of the country, Upper East, Upper West, and of course you add Northwest and others, northern region, it means that not even one student from those 22 schools who took the WASSCE in 2020 is currently in any tertiary institution. And I dare say that we are likely to find a similar trend, or perhaps worse than what we witnessed last year. There is also
why do you say so, Doc? Why do you say so?
Well, first of all, we know as part of government's own effort, as it claimed, to assist students to do well, government spent some good amounts of money to procure past examination questions answered and examiners' reports.
You mean answered?
I'm talking about answered past examination questions.
Okay.
And examiners' reports. This year, the same was repeated. But unlike last year, my own monitoring and information I had from institutions and their heads, who of course cannot come public, was that several secondary schools did not receive the complement of past examination questions and examiners' reports. And so if in 2020 they got them, and 2021 they didn't get them, compared to 2020 in terms of the volume and spread, just opposing that with the conditions that we already know, the erratic academic calendar, the double track, and the fact that students spend a lot more time at home than in school, overburdened, overworked teachers, inadequate space, and all the issues we know affecting the secondary system, then I wouldn't be surprised that the performance across board, if desegregated, would not be as good as last year.
The minister himself admits that his ministry is worried about this trend, and he says he will institute a probe into it. What are your expectations of this probe?
Well, you see, we all know the challenges. You know, the minister knows the challenges. It is very obvious that our secondary school system is not providing the most conducive environment for effective teaching and learning. And I dare say it's one of the reasons why this policy of buying past questions have come into being. But even so, if we were to address the issues that we know, I don't think that the minister will have the need to institute a probe. If the minister indeed wants to institute a probe, then he ought to be looking at the disparities between the northern sector and the southern sector, between the rich and the poor, between males and females, and even the fact that we have very few persons with disability accessing secondary education. So I don't think if there is going to be a probe, the probe should only be confined to why students didn't do well in maths and English, but all these other variables that I have indicated. But you see, this is the reason why stakeholders have been clamoring and calling, advocating for a national dialogue, a national forum to assess the program so far, look at where it is doing well, identify the challenges as a nation, and then to work towards addressing them.
Dr. Clement Apaak, I'll have you hold there. Hold on for me, because the Member of Parliament for Wa West, Peter Tobu, says the absence of textbooks for the new curriculum is also affecting the quality of students at the basic schools. According to the MP, academic teaching and learning has become difficult for both teachers and students, a situation he believes will impact negatively on the future of the young ones. His comment comes after the Education Minister, Dr. Yahweh Duchum, revealed on the floor of Parliament that 3 years after the introduction of the new curriculum, teachers are yet to receive the textbooks to facilitate teaching and learning at various basic schools. He further explains that the textbooks will soon be distributed to the schools shortly after the conclusion of the procurement processes. Listen.
The need for textbooks in implementing the new curriculum, and is working around the clock to supply textbooks to our basic schools. The procurement processes are ongoing and at final quality assurance stage, which will lead to award of contracts. Once the procurement process is over, suppliers will deliver the textbooks to regional and district education offices for onward distribution to schools. Mr. Speaker, whenever any impact assessment is done, I'll be reminded of the need to, and of your admonition to make sure we bring the results of the study to this House. And as I had already indicated, that our teachers are one of the most committed and resourceful, and I'm sure, just like they've done in the just ended WASSCE, at the basic level, we're going to see similar results coming from our education system.
But the Wa West MP, who is unhappy with the minister's response, argued that successive governments have failed to properly think through the implementation of the new curriculum. He believes basic education will take a nosedive should government fail to address the situation.
As we always say, it's the bedrock to development. So if you play with the education of the youth, what it means is that you are creating a very dangerous future for the country. The question was simple. How do you introduce a new curriculum without textbooks? And I asked a very simple question as a follow-up. Mr. Minister, what do you think the impact will be on quality of education if teachers will have to be teaching for 2 good years without reference material, traditional reference material like textbooks? The answer was that they've not done any official impact assessment. And if it is done, we will get the results on the floor of Parliament. But the truth also remains that for 2 good years without the textbooks, everybody, it's common sense that the impact on the quality of the student will definitely not be the best.
It won't be the best?
It will not be the best.
But the minister says even though they are yet to do the impact assessment, teachers have been given the needed resource packages to execute the learning activities in the various schools.
You are talking to all of us who have been to school before. It doesn't matter what you've given to the teacher. The student also uses the textbook as a reference material. Where are the textbooks? And as we are even speaking, he's still giving us assurances Somewhere in June 2021, he gave us 3 months ultimatum that the textbooks were going to be ready. We are in December now. There are no textbooks. And now he's afraid to give us deadlines. What he's saying is that he's assuring us that very soon. They are at the quality assurance stage. Nobody knows when the textbooks will be ready. And in fact, the students are frustrated.
Let me bring in Director of African Education, Executive Director of the Africa Education Watch, Kofi Asare, who has joined us via phone. Now, the minister says they are yet to distribute textbooks after 3 years of a new curriculum. I mean, this is something you have been screaming about for some time now. Are you happy with the minister's response?
I'll be happy when I see students in public schools using textbooks. We've had too many assurances about textbooks. In June, we were told that procurement was underway. Today, we are being told that quality assurance is underway. I thought quality assurance comes before procurement. I will be happy when I see students in public schools using textbooks, not pronouncements to that effect.
Is that to say that you've lost hope in the ministry?
I'm saying that in June, we were told procurement was underway. Today, I heard that quality assurance is underway. Quality assurance is supposed to precede procurement. So we've had enough problems about textbooks, not believe any statement until we see textbooks in our public schools. And we can't wait for public school students to have textbooks. We need to begin to reorient ourselves as a people. Parents will wake up and make noise, agitate, demonstrate about the high cost of living, demonstrate about the cost of fuel, demonstrate about other economic issues. But when it comes to issues affecting their own children, they sit down, no one cares, and then we treat public school children this way. It's just not fair. So I think that we need to begin to pay more attention to things that affect the development of our children than just socio-economic issues.
You've been engaging teachers and all the stakeholders involved in this. What reaction have you been getting from them? All right, we lost Kofi Asare on the line there, but Dr. Clement Apak is still with us. Dr. Clement Apak, you heard your own colleague MP blaming subsequent governments for not fixing this problem. That means that your own party, the NDC, is also part of this problem.
Well, actually, I didn't hear him blaming the NDC or subsequent governments. In fact, I was the one who posed the original question, and he then came with a follow-up.
Okay.
On June 10th this year, I asked the minister to give us timelines with regards to when our basic schools would have access to textbooks produced based on this new standard-based curriculum that his government introduced. The minister told me then that the procurement processes were about completed and that in 3 months, the books will be available in the classrooms. We are in December. So today, I asked him the same question. He came, responded that quality assurance was going on, procurement processes will be initiated, and contracts will be awarded.
So how do you intend to push government or the minister?
I apologize. Yes, I told the minister that he ought to apologize to the good people of this country for having misled parents, students, and teachers, for having given us a false hope that the books would be ready by the end of August. We are in December, and that has not happened. Clearly, this government and the managers of our educational sector are not serious about addressing the challenges facing teaching and learning.
You have a mandate to push government to live by its words. How do you intend to do that?
Well, that is what I've been doing. That is the reason why I filed the question earlier this year. That is the reason why I filed the question again this month, which was asked. And the minister clearly, rather than apologizing to parents and students and teachers and Ghanaians for the inability of his ministry and his government to make books available to the many thousands of students in our basic system, chose to justify and to suggest that the unavailability of textbooks was not that detrimental to effective teaching and learning.
So as
it was on that basis that the MP for Y East followed up with this question.
So as it stands now, there are no textbooks and we do not know when they will be coming. But the minister has assured us that it will come in the shortest possible time, but there are no timelines. Are you willing
We cannot trust the minister. We can't.
I'm grateful for your time. Dr. Clement Apaak is Deputy Ranking Member on the Education Committee of Parliament.